Hello everyone, welcome to Agile Project Management using JIRA tool. In the last section, we discussed about what is Scrum board, how to create the Scrum board. And in this session, we are discussing about one of the very important feature of your JIRA is sprints. This is very important for any team member. Let's talk about this sprints. Before going to the sprints, I wanted to touch base with the Scrum Overview, which we discussed in our previous sessions. So this is our Scrum Overview. See, if you remember that, so in your Scrum, what will happen is first your product owner will maintain or will track all the backlogs. So if you go back here, here already we are having all the backlogs. Once the backlogs is available, then what we will do is we will start with the sprints. See here, now we know that our current project we are delivering with two versions, version 1.0 and version 2.0, and currently we are working with version 1.0, and this particular version 1.0 will be completed with the help of three sprints. Each sprint will be 3 weeks of time. And as I said, sprint is nothing but it's a small iteration to complete your issues. So in the sprint, what we will do is we will be selecting few issues, few requirements to be implemented in that particular sprint. And when I say that sprint, by the end of that sprint, you have to make sure that that issue is completed. When I say completed, it has to be developed, it has to be tested, and if any defects are there, it has to be retested, and also you need to complete the demo to your client. That means you will pick one user story, then complete the development, complete the testing, and then showcase to your client. This all together is called one sprint. Sprint is nothing but one iteration. And in this current project, we are having three sprints to complete our version 1.0, and each version is of your 3 weeks of time frame. Now, here if you observe this, see here once you are having all the backlogs, we will start with our sprint 1. When I say that sprint 1, here I cannot pick all the user stories, I cannot pick all the issues from the backlog in the sprint 1 itself. Based on the time availability, based on the complexity, we will be picking up that user story for your particular sprint. And here also one question you may come across, so which user stories I need to pick first? For that, the answer is your product owner will give the priority for each and every user story. Which user story needs to be implemented first? Based on that, we will be planning accordingly. That is called your sprint planning meeting. So, before start of any sprint, first we will be having a sprint planning meeting, and in that sprint planning meeting, we will discuss and we will discuss the feasibility of your requirements, how many user stories we can implement with that sprints. We will discuss in that meeting, and then finally we will come to one conclusion saying that we are going to implement these particular user stories or requirement in this sprint. So once we committed that, so at the end of the sprint we have to make sure that all these requirements are completed. If it is not completed, then it will spill over to your sprint 2. See, whatever the task is pending, then it will automatically add it to your sprint 2. So this is the process for your scrum. Now what I will do is I will show you practically how it will works in Jira. Let me show you. Let me open Jira. So here first what I am doing is I am creating a sprint 1. Let me create a sprint. See, you can click on this, click on create sprint, then it will create your sprint number 1. So you can use the name for your sprint. So what I'm trying to do is I'm creating a name here. Okay, so this is my, let me name also is fine, that's fine, so name is fine. Absolutely fine. It's a release one and sprint one. Now, now, now what will happen in the real time means now you guys are assembled as part of your sprint planning meeting, because I told you before start of your sprint we will be having the sprint planning meeting. In the sprint planning meeting, all the team members will be available like developers, testers, UI developers, database administrators, and your product owner and also project manager. So everyone will be available in that meeting, and this sprint is of your 3 weeks of duration. Within that 3 weeks, how many user stories we can pick it up? See, right now how many user stories are there? You are having like around 11 user stories. It is not possible to pick up all the user stories. So first what we will do is we will be picking up that user stories based on the priority given by your product owner. What product owner will do is before start of your sprint planning meeting, he will give the priority for each and every user stories. Here we are having that 11 user stories. What your product owner will do is he will give the priority. He will say that I wanted to complete this one first, and then I want to complete this one. Just you can drag and drop, and you can give the priority as a product owner. Once your list is available, then we will be having a discussion. So within this 3 weeks of time, how much time we need for the development, how much time we need for the testing, and then how many user stories we can pick it up for this particular time frame. Okay, let me pick 2 or 3 user stories for this particular sprint. And for this release we are having 3 sprints, but depends on the organization, they may be having 2 sprints, they may be having 4 sprints. Okay, but the process is absolutely same. Let me pick user stories for my sprint one. For that I also just drag and drop, just take this and keep it in your sprint one. Now you can see one issue. That means, see, we know that JIRA will consider everything as issue only. That means at the end of the sprint, you have to make sure that this task, this issue is completed. If it is not completed, then automatically it will move to backlog items. Until and unless you completed that issue, it will be always with your backlog items only. Okay. Now let me pull few user stories which we can finish it in our sprint one. This is based on the input from all the team members, like based on the inputs from your product owner and development team and QA team, everyone. Okay, fine. So now see, based on the time availability, we are having 3 weeks of time. Within the 3 weeks of time, we can complete these 3 user stories. So we picked these 3 issues for our sprint one. Once, see, this is what you discussed in your sprint planning meeting. First thing is identify the user stories or identify the issues for the sprint to be completed. Once this identification is done, then what you need to do is you need to add the subtask for each and every issue. Meaning, see, here you are saying that this issue you identified for your sprint one. To complete this issue, what task you need to do, what work you need to do, you have to track everything. So to complete this particular issue, I have to create a subtask saying that what and all work I am going to do. Let me show you what do you mean by subtask, and then how you can create the subtask for one of the issue. So I will create a subtask for this particular issue. That means in order to complete login with admin privileges issue, we need to do a lot of work, like development team has to work, QA team has to work. So all the team has to work to complete this particular issue. Now what you need to do is you need to add your subtask from your respective team. So if you are a QA guy, you need to add your task from your QA side. If you're a developer, you have to add your task from the development point of view. Okay, let me show you how to create the subtask, and then what are all the subtasks you can create for this particular issue, for this user story. You can right click open in a new tab. As part of your sprint planning meeting, you will be creating the subtask for each and every identified issues for the current sprint. So for the first sprint, we identified three issues to implement, and for these three issues, what work needs to be done by the from the team. So developer may need to do some work for that particular user story. Testing team may need some time to work with that particular user story. Whatever the work we need to do for that particular issue to be completed, you need to create as a subtask. And even this subtask creation also will be done as part of your sprint planning meeting only. So how to create the subtask? Go to more. So this is the user story currently we are working. And say for example, I'm a tester. Go to more, and clicking on this more options, you can see the options here. Here you can see this create a subtask. So what you need to do is, as a tester or developer, whoever is working with that particular team, what work you need to complete for this particular issue. See, this issue is login with admin privileges. As a developer, do you need to do any work? Create a subtask. As a tester, you need to do any work? Create a subtask. So what you have to do is, in the sprint planning meeting, you have to create the subtask for each and every issue identified for that sprint. Now I will show you how the subtask can be created and what kind of subtask can be created for a issue. I will show you that. Click on create subtask. Let me create a subtask. Now what I will do is, I will be creating the subtask for both developers as well as testers. So I will be saying that one of the subtasks for this particular requirement, test case preparation. So currently we are working with 1.0, and this is a login requirement. And you can, if you want, you can write the description, test case preparation, and then you can assign this and then click on create. Once you click on create, a subtask will be created and it will be available under that issue. And remember, once you created all the subtasks, once you complete all the subtasks, then only it will allow you to close your issue. I will also show you that. Let me create the subtask. Click on create. Once the subtask is created, see, this is the issue we identified for our sprint one. Okay. Once a subtask is created, if you want to see that subtask, you will find under your issue. This is the issue. Let me show you. Now you can see subtask. Subtask is created for your issue. So this is the issue. This is the issue. To complete this particular requirement, we need to complete all this subtasks. That means these kind of work needs to be done. All this work is done, meaning your issue is completed. You can create all the subtasks. So developers, testers, all the teams, whoever is relevant to this particular requirement, they can create the subtask. If you want to create the subtask, you can simply go to more and create your subtask as I showed you earlier. Otherwise, what you can do is, you can also click on this one plus icon. Click on plus. You can click on your plus icon and you can create your subtask. So next time subtask is, so let me create a task from the development point of view. So developers will create the subtask, testers will create the subtask, whoever is responsible for that particular work, whoever is responsible in doing or in working with that particular issue, they will create the subtask. So say for example here, code development from the development point of view. Okay. So you can say that this is what we are going to do as part of this particular issue. So I'll say that create. So it is also created. See, you can see that this subtask is created, one more subtask is created. And one more thing is, if you see this subtask is created, and if you wanted to do any changes, or if you wanted to edit that, if you want to edit that subtask, or if you wanted to assign this subtask to your another team member, that means, right, see, this subtask is created and then I wanted to assign this subtask to my another team member. Then what you can do is click on your assign. So I'm assigning this subtask to some other team member. So you will be finding all your team member details here. You can assign this task to that particular team member. Okay. And also, if you want, you can edit this. If you wanted to do some changes, you can edit this. And one more thing is, you can also clone this. See, in your entire Jira, please make a note here. In your entire Jira, if you are having any issue, you can clone that issue. Clone is nothing but you can duplicate the same content with the different id. That means, now when I say that clone, what will happen is all the information whatever is available in your test case preparation will be cloned. See, I'll say that clone is nothing but you are duplicating, simple terminology. So it will be creating a clone for you. Okay, now you can see that it will be creating a clone for you. Clone is nothing but I wanted to duplicate it. Say for example, test cases preparation is doing by two team members. So that means you have to create two subtasks. One is for team member A, another for your team member B. This kind of situation, what you can do is you can clone it. And then one test case preparation you can assign it to one team member, another test case preparation you can assign it to another team member. Right? Okay, if you want to delete it, same process. You can delete as well. You can delete as well. So this is how you can create your subtask for any issue which you identified as part of your sprint. Now I will be discussing few more concepts with respect to sprints in the next session. Thank you everyone. Hello everyone. Welcome to Agile Project Management using JIRA tool. In the last session, we discussed about how to create the sprint, what is sprint. And also we know that how to create the subtask. In this session, I wanted to show you that how to create the subtask one more time, then followed by start the sprint. Okay. So if you want to create your subtask, either click on this plus icon, else what you can do is you can go up and there you will be finding your more drop down. You can if you want to create your subtask, you can just click on this one. Click on this and then create your subtask. Once you click on your create your subtask, then it will open up a window called create subtask window. Then what you can do is you can create a subtask. Here I wanted to give it a subtask saying that test case execution, test case execution, test case execution for login. So what you are doing is you are giving one more task saying that test case execution. So that means, right, see, what you need to do is once this sprint is completed, means by the end of this sprint you have to make sure that all your tasks are completed. If it is not completed, then your manager will come back and he will ask why it is not completed. Have you faced any challenges? Have you faced any issues during your sprint work? So you will be getting the questions from your management. So you should have some justification why it is not completed. You might be having some environmental challenges, you might be having some application issues, that could be any reason. But end of the day, you have to make sure that this subtask is completed at the end of your sprint. If it is not completed, you need to have some justification. Okay, let me show you one more time how to create this subtask. And this subtask is we will be creating this subtask for each and every identified issue in your sprint. Let me, and if you want, you can assign directly from here. You can directly assign this subtask to your team member. Otherwise, you can assign to yourself as well. Click on create. Once the subtask is created, then you can find the subtask under your user story. Now, if you observe this, see, now you can go down here. If you go down, for this particular user story, we are having these subtasks. That means once all the respected owners of subtask is completed, then only it will allow us to complete this particular user story. And remember one thing, each sprint will be having one scrum master. Scrum master is part of our team only, like from development team or QA team. One of the existing team member will act as a scrum master. Scrum master role is to make sure that all the sprint is working properly and all the sprint is going smoothly. And if you are getting any issues and if you are getting any blockers, then you need to communicate with your scrum master, and scrum master will unblock you by communicating with the other teams or the respective teams and all. So scrum master is not the different person, is part of your team only. See, in your team, say for example, four team members are working in your team, and one of the team members among four will be treated as a scrum master along with his work, with his or her work. So he will be doing his work. Along with his work, he will be doing the Scrum Master role also. Scrum Master role is to make sure that your sprint is going smoothly. Okay, fine. So let's come back to your subtask. So for each task, for each issue, you may be having your subtask, and all these subtasks will be entered by the team during your sprint planning meeting. Once the subtask is entered by all the team members for all the issues identified your sprint, now let's go back to your sprint. So this is your sprint. So in your sprint 1, we identified 3 issues, and for each and every identified issue, we created the subtask. Once all the subtask is created for each and every user story, and once everyone is good with the subtask, so we have created the subtask for each and every user story, and then we are good with all the identified user stories, and we created the subtask. That means we are all done, we are ready to start the sprint. So as I said earlier, this task, all this communication, all this work will be done as part of your sprint planning meeting. Usually sprint planning meeting will be 2 to 4 hours, and in which we will be identifying the user stories, and we will be creating the task, we will be creating the subtask. All this groundwork will be completed before start of your sprint. Now here we identified the issues, we are done with the subtask for each and every issue. Once everything is done, then what we can do is we can start the sprint. How to start the sprint? Just click on this one, click on start sprint. Once you click on your start sprint, then it will ask you, can you give me that start date and end date of this particular sprint? So we are in the first sprint. Okay, we are in the first sprint. Once the sprint 1 is completed, then we will go to sprint 2 and sprint 3, because our current version, current release is having 3 sprints, as I said earlier. Okay, fine. So here we are working with 3 issues for this particular sprint, and this is my sprint. And then for each sprint, our duration is 3 weeks. So I'm selecting 3 weeks here. So we are planning 3 weeks for each and every sprint. And then start date is today. Let me give the dates. So I wanted to start from today. Okay. So I'm giving this is the start date. Then automatically your end date will be calculated based on the duration. That means your sprint will be ended by this time. and you are having total 15 working days in this sprint. Once you click on start, see, remember one point here, once you click on your start for your sprint, that means your time is calculating from that moment onwards. So see, here we planned for 3 weeks and we identified three user stories for the implementation. So the by the end of the sprint, you have to make sure that all your user stories are completed. So once your sprint is completed, then we will show all the implemented features to your client for the feedback. What your client will do is he will he will see that implementation. If everything goes good, then he will say that let's proceed with the sprint 2. Otherwise, your client may provide some suggestions to improve your implemented features. Then what we can do is we can take those suggestions as part of your sprint 2. Okay, so before starting the sprint start, make sure that everything is ready and all the subtasks is created are correctly. Because, and one more point I wanted to highlight here is, once the sprint starts, we will not take any other enhancements, any changes. Once the sprint starts, then usually we will not take any other changes till your sprint ends. Because if you are adding any items in between the sprint, then it will change your sprint scope. So always we will not entertain to add any items during your sprint. However, if you add it, then it will change the sprint scope. Okay, let me start the sprint. Click on start. That means your sprint is started now, and then it will be ended by this time. Okay, my sprint is successfully started. So this is how you can create a sprint, and then this is how you can start the sprint. Thank you, everyone.